Within Proforma and the ability to correct Proforma invoices, if you think of the overall workflow, well, the progress bill gets submitted, invoice gets reviewed, and there might be a question or a dispute about what is on that Proforma itself or what ends up on the invoice. And this statement then requires some sort of correction and resubmission. That invoice gets corrected, and then you have new updated customer amounts. Previously to 24R1, you had the ability to correct the Proforma, so that was added. But then as it did the automatic reversal of the original accounts receivable invoice corresponding to that Proforma, issued a reversing credit memo, it required users to come in and manually apply those reversing documents. If those steps weren't followed in order, or if a reversing document was removed before it was released, it might have resulted in some inconsistency with the accounts receivable invoices that were open and the prior Proforma revisions. Well, with 24R1, we've now streamlined that process to help within the corrections and the adjustment workflow. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this particular project, Flagler Custom Home. We've generated Proforma number 24. Well, let's come back and they've identified some discrepancies or some issues with that particular bill. So let me go back up. I'm going to correct that invoice. And now as part of that individual Proforma correction, I'm coming in and identifying that we really were not completed as much as we thought with the finishes. We need to make that $90,000 instead of the $98,000. What do we need to go back and identify for this particular bill? Making that revision on the identified line item. And as we go ahead and remove that hold, let's take a look at the financial. We notice there's no invoice because this is the particular reversal or the correction. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that hold, approve that correction for that decrease of $90,000, and go ahead and release that invoice. Now, as part of that Proforma release, it's going through and doing the reversal of the original accounts receivable invoice, going through and applying the credit for the $8,000 or $8,000 plus of the amount changed for the finishes line item, and that will do that information for me automatically upon release. We can see now back at that project invoice history where the original invoice for $516,000 was now credited with that $516,000 credit memo, and the new invoice is open and ready to go for $508,000. So the automation has created the credit memo to the original Proforma invoice, and now the new Proforma invoice for the adjusted amount or the corrected amount for $508,000 is ready to be processed. To recap what we did with 24R1, well, the generation of the new accounts receivable invoice that was corrected remains the same, as does the reversing of the accounts receivable credit memo. But now we automatically release the reversing accounts receivable credit memo and auto-reverse the AR invoice. That functionality is new with this release, and then will very much help you streamline the workflow of those corrections.